With Burke.
Don't expect anything less than the #1 rated Caribbean show. Caribbean vibration. Caribbean vibration. Caribbean vibration. Caribbean vibration.
What's up? You're watching Caribbean Vibrations. It's your boy Alain, and today we are at the Delta Hotel in Scarborough, Ontario at the Cutting Style, the 51st anniversary for the Trinidad and Tobago, brought to you by TTHG and Joan Pierre. And here's some scenes from this event. You're watching Caribbean Vibrations. We're at Cutting Style for Trinidad Independence, and we're here with the lovely Claudia Pegus. Now, tell us about your inspiration for your line tonight.
Tonight, my collection was inspired by Lana Del Rey, also the 40s Gatsby era. I wanted to show a very feminine collection, very soft colors. I also wanted to show the versatility of the line in that someone in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. I wanted to give my entire client range a bit of something.
That's very interesting. Being an established person in the fashion industry, what keeps you driven? Like, what keeps you going when you look at what inspires you?
Well, I love what I do. That's number one. What inspires me? World events, books, theater, movies, all sorts of things. I was very much inspired by The Great Gatsby, The Return of the Great Gatsby, the movie that was just out, and I thought I wanted to play on that.
Now, another thing that when I talk to a lot of different people who are doing, like an entrepreneur like yourself, and you've been in business for a long time, I always say, what was the main thing that made you realize this is what you wanted to do? Was there like a certain event or just a series of events that led you to where you are now?
I spent some time with my aunt. My aunt had no kids, so I was like an adopted daughter, and she was an extremely good seamstress. So as a child, I grew up, among machines, playing with pins and needles and fabrics. So it was a natural progression, I remember when I was 12 years old, I helped my aunt produce costumes for an entire band. I was only 12 years old. So, it's fashion to me came like balls and dolls and cricket bats and, Barbie dolls for some girls. So
I know it's funny, I was going to ask you about Carnival too, but since you already answered that question, my next question to you is, being a Caribbean designer, what are some of the obstacles that we have as Caribbean people in getting into the mass market? Because, we've seen some success recently with the Project Runway thing, but still, we're here and we know it's in the region, but to get us further out, because we have the talents.
Well, first to begin, the Caribbean region, if you look at it as a region and not as individual islands, there is a big market. That's number one. But there is a big market for a particular type of product. So if you go a little deeper, the Caribbean represents resort. And so it's the ideal market to launch and establish resort wear. Most designers don't necessarily go that way because perhaps they don't see that opportunity. If, on the other hand, you want to go off into couture, which is what I do, then you have to focus on a larger market. The thing with clothing and even with business, volume makes a difference. It makes a big difference to the numbers. If you produce in small volumes and if you produce in large volumes. The Caribbean region as a whole It's a small market if you're thinking of mass volume, but it's a big market if you're thinking of a niche, a particular niche market. So for me, a lot of my earlier years in fashion I spent in Europe. And then I went back home. I decided that Trinidad, well, the Caribbean was the place that I wanted to be. Is, establishing and owning what belongs to us. So for me, as a Caribbean person and as a Caribbeanist, my contribution, I want my contribution to be in the Caribbean. I think that my work can stand up if I stayed in Germany, if I stayed in the United States. But then again, would I have made a mark in the Caribbean? Would I have become a mentor to the younger ones wishing to go into fashion? For me, it's all about giving back. And it's all about focusing on what belongs to us.
I love that. I can sit here and talk to you for hours, because that's one of the reasons we do the shows, about showing Caribbean culture, about showing the positive things in our community. Now, what advice would you have to someone who decided, you know what, I want to get into the fashion world, being a Caribbean person themselves? Can you give them, I know it's a rocky road, it's hard no matter what, but can you give them any words of advice?
But I would say the first thing is, look at it from a business standpoint. If you want to get into fashion and you wanted to get into fashion as a hobby, that's one thing. But if you really want to get into fashion, then you need to have a comprehension of business, of what it's all about.
My question to you now is, as you've watched the evolution of just everything, how has social media changed the way that your business is run?
Well, I can stay in Trinidad and I can do my business all over the world. 75% of my business is sold internationally. It's purchased by international clients. They don't come to Trinidad.
It would be nice if they came to Trinidad, but it's good enough now, right?
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And you're watching Caribbean Vibrations. You're watching Caribbean Vibrations. We're here today at the Delta Toronto East at Cuttin Style with the two of the ladies behind the whole thing, Miss Gloria from the Trinidad and Tobago Heritage Group, and again, my friend Joan Pierre. All right. So, tell us about the genesis. This is your second year doing this, and you guys put on last year. So tell us first about the Trinidad and Tobago Heritage Group.
Trinidad and Tobago Heritage Group was birthed out of 7 Trinidad and Tobagonians. And this came about because we did not hear nor see anything happening with the 50th anniversary, which is a great milestone for Trinidad. So a group of us got together and we said, we cannot see 50th go by like that. So then we decided to get it going. And a lot of hard work from last year actually brought this to happen for the second year. So this event will be a continuing event from last year until the younger generation takes over.
I love that. I love that very much. And this year, it was produced in association with Joan Pierre. So Joan, tell us about what you brought to the table this year.
Well, Cuttin Style is something we started in 2008 and 2009 with the Trinidad and Tobago Consulate Office with Michael Lashley at the helm. And after he retired, I wanted to continue because fashion is my thing. I wanted to continue doing it, but it was not something that the President Consul General had as their mandate in terms of what they do. It was different for Michael. So I have struggled with it for the last couple of years trying to do it myself. It's very difficult to do these things. It's costly. You have to get funding and all that. So this year I was trying again this year, and when last year having worked with the TTHG, I said, why don't we do it together? So we decided, hey, this is a good marriage. I worked with them last year. We did a successful event. Why not bring the thing that I so love into the mix and make it an annual event? So that's how the birth of the Cuttin Style and the TTHG happened.
Well, I got to say, this is my first time coming, but I'm really enjoying the fact that I'm seeing a lot of designers. And when I was even talking to Claudia, their stuff can stand up with anybody. It's just they need to get the exposure. So right now, you're giving a lot of them the opportunity to get more exposure. Now, is there anything else you guys are working on later on in the year? Because it's just this event you do for the year, or other things as well?
For the Trinidad and Tobago Heritage Group, we actually going to be partnership with Joan Alexander and Colin Alexander in the Parang. That's another cultural event that happens, and that happens around November. So it's something that we want to see more Trinidad and Tobagonian and internationally people involved. So our heart is really to make sure that Trinidad and Tobago remains on the map. We don't want to be falling off the map. We don't have no intention of doing that, not at this present moment.
And of course, I can ask you what you're up to, but you're up to like 1,000 things. So tell me what you're up to, Joan.
Well, actually, in a couple of weeks, I'm working on the Toronto Film Showcase, Caribbean Toronto Film Showcase with Francis Ann. We have the opening on September 4th at Harbourfront, so I'm working on that. And after that, on the 18th of September, I'm doing Steps to South Africa. The tourism office in South Africa wants the Caribbean to get more involved in people traveling to South Africa. I've just put a group together that is going in October for 2 weeks. So now we're doing an event here to let people know more about South Africa.
Thank you. Now, if you want to get more information, if you look right on the screen right now, you'll see their website, as well as Joan's website and her Facebook page. And you're watching Caribbean Vibrations. See, I already know your website, tthg.org. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
You're watching Caribbean Vibrations. We're still here at Cutting Style, and we're here with Trinidadian-born, Toronto-raised fashion designer, Cherith Burke. So, tonight you had a chance to show what you can do, so tell us what was the inspiration behind your line tonight.
The most of my fabrics that I bought and that were used in that collection, I bought in Trinidad. So I was inspired. I went on a trip last year in October, and I got a chance to visit a lot of the different designers, and I go often. I have a lot of family there. So really just do a lot of touristy things that I don't usually get to do. So I was inspired by, I guess, just the vibrancy of Trinidad, which you can see in the burnout chiffon that I use. There's a lot of colors, and it's flowy and exciting, and yeah, and also the laid backness, that's not a word,
It's all good.
of the island as well. It's a contradiction in itself to be vibrant and laid back, but that's what it is.
I like that. So what made you decide, hey, I want to design fashion?
To be quite honest, I'm not sure what really, I can't remember when the decision actually happened, because I've wanted to do a lot of things that were all surrounding fashion, but I've been sewing since I was a child. My aunts, my grandmother, my other auntie, they've all like indoctrined that into me, and eventually I just kind of developed myself moving from different things until I decided that's what I wanted.
Now, since you're Trinidadian born, are you also a carnival player?
I've never played mass.
What? Wait, hold on. No, keep rolling. What?
I've never played mass. I do love carnival.
How can you not have played mass?
Because I live here, and
What's your point? I play mass?
I know, but it's on.
No, I don't. I just want to say that.
Oh, it's on Saturday. I'm Seventh-day Adventist, so I've never actually played mass. But I do participate in other ways because I love to go to the King and Queen show. I've helped out at band camps over the years. I like help making the costumes, and some people have even approached me with designing costumes, so I'm thinking of doing that too. But it is something that I love. I would love to go to Trinidad and like be there in the like months before to see the development and everything of the costumes, because I think it's beautiful. I love seeing it.
Now, being a Caribbean person, how do you feel that as a Caribbean designer that we can get more of your designs into more of a mainstream market?
I think it's beautiful and it's necessary, and it's overdue, because like when you see people like Claudia Pegus or The Cloth, and you see how amazing their work is and how inventive their work is, it's a shame that it's taking so long for it to come out of the Caribbean, because really and truthfully, Claudia's work, it's at par with a lot of the Western designers that we have here, and even The Cloth, and it's perfect for resort wear or that whole season, and our spring summer season as well.
So what's up next for you?
What's next for me is I want to try and do consignment and get my stuff into stores, so developing like a seasonal line. So I'm just working on that. I do a lot of private client work, so that's what I've been doing to kind of fine-tune what it is that my aesthetic is, because I'm a baby. I've only been doing this a couple years by myself since I've been out of school, so that's my goal right now.